This is CityCast Twin Cities. I'm Sean McPherson, and here's what the cities are talking about. Denzel, what is the earliest acceptable day to turn on your Christmas lights?
The day after Thanksgiving. And if you do it earlier, I think you're a little broken inside.
Julie, are you in the same reasonable position, or are you a wild supporter of early Christmas lights?
I don't have strong opinions, which means I think you can turn them on whenever you want. It's not going to offend me.
Denzel, I am the person yelling at folks. Set them up beforehand. That's fine. Turn them on the day after Thanksgiving. Denzel sees me. I appreciate that.
Can't wait for the hate mail.
Today on CityCast Twin Cities, we're talking about a potential strike for food workers at the airport. Of course, we're talking about weather because we're from Minnesota. And we're talking with a celebrated podcast producer working right here in the Twin Cities who is launching 2 new podcasts this fall. I'm joined by Denzel Belin, Newsroom coordinator for NPR and Mr. TC Leather 2026. Denzel, thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Denzel, my neighbor, Kelly, was like, what is Mr. TC Leather? And I said, I think he wears a lot of tight leather in public at events. Is that accurate? Am I good?
Not as tight because I still like to move, but pretty much exactly that.
I'm also joined for the first time on CityCast Twin Cities by Julie Censullo, an audio producer based in Minneapolis. No leather to add to the resume. Julie, thank you for being with us today.
That was presumptive.
Okay, sorry.
I don't have any leather, and I'm happy to be here.
Spectacular. We're very glad to have you along. Now, travel season is coming up, and I myself like to get a Dunkin' Donuts coffee on the way to my flight, or maybe a personal pizza if it's a longer flight. And I'd like to do that after November 23rd, but we all could be SOL because at 12:01 a.m. on November 24th, there will be no food sales at the MSP airport if a contract has not been reached for Unite Here Local 17. And yes, that is Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. NPR had a piece about it, and the photo of the potentially striking workers had them holding signs that said, Thanksgiving week, no contract, no food. And it's been a long time trying to get a contract. We're talking about 11 months since their contract expired. Julie, have you ever been involved in union negotiations or any negotiations that last 11 months or longer?
I've never been involved in a union negotiation. I've certainly been involved in negotiating rates with a nonprofit organization. So I have a lot of respect for the bravery and stamina of collectively trying to advocate for your self-worth.
Denzel, I think we've been involved in the sandwich, union negotiations and with a nonprofit, because I was certainly involved in union negotiations during my time at NPR. And Denzel, you've also worked in the world of unions at Minnesota Public Radio, right?
Yes, I served as a shop steward for quite a number of years at NPR News. I'm not doing that right now just to get some new fresh blood in the mix, which is always important. But with these kind of things, everyone has a lot of opinions, a lot of energy about it. And yeah, it can be a lot. If you've never gone through a union negotiation before, count yourself kind of lucky. But also, if you have the chance to be a part of it, do it.
I want to talk a little bit about what is happening in this particular negotiation, which has been dragging on for quite some time. And we're getting this information from Regina Medina, a writer at Minnesota Public Radio. What these workers are seeking is higher wages and employer contributions to dependent health coverage. So right now, a portion of their health coverage, the actual workers' health coverage, is contributed to by their employers, but they aren't doing diddly squat for dependents or for spouses, etc. And it's sounding like they're about $1 apart on the wage increases, but this health insurance contribution is really a sticking point, and they aren't that close on that. And again, I can't state enough how much they have picked the perfect pressure point to say this is when we're going to stop serving food right as traffic really picks up for this situation. I don't know, Julie, can you imagine if there's not food available at this airport for the week of Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I think it would be very stressful, especially with flight delays. You're stuck at the airport. You have your family. Yeah, I think it's a good time to put pressure on the airport.
Interestingly enough, there was a no-strike clause in the contract that they were previously working under. And this sort of it points out that if they had gotten these negotiations going earlier and had addressed these things in a timely fashion, then this level of sort of raising the stakes wouldn't have come up in this situation. And a lot of times when I think about the recent potential strike that thankfully was averted for Minneapolis public school teachers, you often think time is not on your side when you're hitting these pressure points. And I know that this can be a tactic on both sides at times, but I really believe with all the stress that has happened for air travel, the difficulties with the government shutdown and how that impacted air travel, my gut says that they're not going to let this happen. They're not going to let people not get their Auntie Annie's pretzels during Thanksgiving week at these airports. Do either of you, just as Twin Cities residents, folks who have probably traveled during the Thanksgiving week, can either of you imagine this strike actually hitting next week?
I hope not. I've seen a lot of things that I didn't think would happen when it comes to sort of like tense negotiations. And again, they've been working under this expired contract for almost an entire year. Who knows what'll happen?
I do want to remove from my vocabulary the word, there's no way that's going to happen, because it is a useless sentence in 2025. Right. But frankly, I am hoping that there's no way this is going to happen. We would love to hear from you. What are your experiences in union negotiations? What are your necessities for serving food to your family at the airport? Send us a text or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast Twin Cities hotline, 612-217-0637. You might hear those comments in an upcoming episode. There's more news to discuss. Before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. It's Winter Hazard Awareness Week in Minnesota and Wisconsin. How are you celebrating? Winter is coming. The high on Thanksgiving Day is projected to be 30. And yes, that is the high. And even in Minnesota, where we all should know better, winter sneaks up on you. We know it's coming, but the amount of times I see somebody out clearing the snow off of their windshield with a bare hand makes me realize that we could do a real service to our neighbors by reminding you how to survive a winter, the language you need to know before winter gets started. And also, we got people who just moved here in August and are not mentally, physically, and perhaps materially prepared for what's coming up for winter. But Mandy Thalliaber over at Minnesota Public Radio is helping us get ready for the winter months. Denzel, can I run you through a quick open book quiz with Julie about winter language?
I haven't done a quiz in a while, so we will see.
The pressure's on. I just want to make sure you know you have to get this all right, and everything's on the line, okay?
Oh, goodness.
What is a squall?
Well, when I first hear squall, I think of the lead protagonist from Final Fantasy VIII. But we're talking about a snow squall. A snow squall is a short-lived burst of intense snow with sudden near-zero visibility. And if you get a warning for this, it usually lasts about an hour or less. So again, it comes in really quick, unlike any Final Fantasy game you've ever played.
If you made any of those jokes during a winter emergency, I would be so wildly upset. Let's keep this quiz going. How fast do winds have to be rolling to merit a blizzard warning?
I take the bus, so I say any amount of wind under that temperature would be a blizzard warning for me. But a technical blizzard warning is winds of 35 miles per hour or above and visibility under 1/4 of a mile for several hours. That can really impact travel because low visibility and intense winds.
Okay, I have always been confused by this. Which is more certain of severe weather? Is that a watch or a warning? Because I never know how much should I be freaking out when it's a watch? How much should I be freaking out if it's a warning?
So watch is like the ice is like possible snow, sleet, ice. Get prepared for that. Warning is like slow, sleet, or ice is expected and start taking action now. So watch, you're going to be on the lookout. Warning is like the siren is going off. Get prepared. Grab your Canada Goose jacket.
And just a reminder to anybody who's new to Minnesota, if weather where you lived previously was just something to maybe know about, this is different. This is something where you really need to know before you set out on your day, especially if you're traveling by bus. But any way that you're traveling, you really need to know what's coming at you. And beyond just learning the terms, we have to make sure we're prepared for this weather, especially if you're a motorist. You don't want to just have like an iPod cable and a newspaper in your car. You need to actually have some items in your vehicle, especially in case you get stranded. Denzel, what are some of those key elements to an emergency supply kit for a motorist in Minnesota?
All right. If you have the capacity to have a full tank of gas during the winter, that's going to be really important so you don't end up stranded. Having some sand or kitty litter, I think, is one of those key things for when you get stuck in that ice. You're able to lay that down and give yourself some traction. And I know sand can be kind of hard to find in certain places, but kitty litter, you should be able to find. You're going to be someone's hero one day if you don't happen to use it. Having that snow shovel and brush available to keep your windows clean, that's going to be great. And I think one of the most important things, have those big, sort of chunky, maybe not even fashionable, but warm mittens, hats, boots, warm clothes available. The car can go on and kaput, but we don't want you to go on and kaput.
In addition to all these great recommendations, which we'll have connected to in our show notes, I do want to point out that if you don't know if you're up to it, get a membership to AAA. I've paid that membership to AAA for decades, and not only have been able to help myself, I've been able to help out other people. And in winter emergencies, especially if you're a fancy boy who doesn't know if he could replace his own tire, meaning I can't, I find it very valuable to have that AAA membership and that comfort. While we're on the topic of traffic and of winter, I want to add that this is Crash Responder Safety Week. And of course, with the time change from the beginning of the month, we are navigating much more time driving in dark conditions. And I want to make sure that everybody moves out of the way and lets those responders do their job, because it is not a year that goes by without a responder being killed or injured in the line of duty. Denzel, I know you're not a driver. You famously don't have a driver's license. I'm glad that wasn't a requirement for Mr. TC Leather 2026. Julie, do you get out of the way when people are responding to traffic accidents?
I do always get out of the way when people are responding to traffic accidents. And I think maybe someone can tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's important, even if you, like, when people try to always move to the right, that's not always the best thing to do. If the ambulance is coming through, like, just use common sense, get to a place that lets the ambulance get through. I was just on Franklin Avenue recently, and I saw everyone trying to move to the right, and it was not working out because then they were just blocking the lane. So try to move to the right if you can, but try to just make space for the ambulance to get through, please. And
we can often be really driver-centric in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota in general, just thinking that everybody drives everywhere. That's not the case, as evidenced by the fact that Denzel doesn't even drive anywhere. Here's the thing. I want to make sure you guys know about the Guaranteed Ride Home program from Metro Transit, something I've used in the past when I commuted to work. If you're over 18 and you have an email address, you can register for reimbursements up to 4 times a year for a Guaranteed Ride Home program. So just because you commute and you're using a bus or a light rail, you're still able to, if your kid's sick and you got to get home, or if the bus didn't show up, there's a way for you to get that Uber, get that Lyft, get that taxi ride, and get it reimbursed up to 4 times a year. There's more info over at metrotransit.org, and we'll leave a link in the description. We'd love to hear from you. What is in your emergency pack in your vehicle? Send us a text or leave us a voicemail, 612-217-0637. Your suggestions could show up in a later episode. There's more news to discuss, but before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. It pains me greatly to admit this, but there are other podcasts that people listen to besides for CityCast Twin Cities. But I have to say, it does bring me a lot of joy that some of those awesome podcasts that folks listen to are made right here in the Twin Cities. Out Cold is one such podcast, and season 3 premieres tomorrow, and they're going to be celebrating over at the Hook and Ladder. Julie, you are one of the producers of Out Cold. Is that correct?
I am.
Well, congratulations to you. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
making it to season 3. And obviously, congratulations for celebrating at the Hook and Ladder. How'd you get into making spooky audio dramas?
Yeah. I have always loved radio dramas. I've always loved really imaginative audio. My co-producer, Sophie Nikitas, and I had known each other for many years. And one day she reached out to me and was like, we should get coffee. We should know each other. And we got coffee at Spy House on Nicollet. And we were saying, maybe we could get together and spend an hour writing some scripts. And that was, I think, December of 2022. And we wrote the entire first season, and we've been producing it ever since.
And now audio dramas indicate that this is something with a real theatrical bent. You have actors. This is not unscripted, chewing the fat situation. And in fact, you've hired the cream of the crop to be involved as voice actors, including our own Denzel Belin, who showed up in season 1 of Out Cold. What was it like working as a voice actor on Out Cold?
Yeah, it was super exciting. I usually work in the realm of sketch comedy, which tends to be a little bit more physical, just a little bit more sort of full-bodied. So to really be able to be in the recording studio and focus on voice and receive notes, it was such a wonderful and a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah, voice acting is such a unique skill. Denzel is great at it, but it does kind of require stretching that muscle and being able to convey emotion only through your voice.
Well, let's check out some of this craft. Can we hear a sample from season 3?
Yes. So the clip you're going to hear is a trailer for season 3.
Are you sure you don't want to listen to anything?
Were you hoping I'd make a playlist for this trip?
No, but...
My mental health trip playlist on the way to my weird-ass sister's house?
You'd be amazed at the sounds a lake can make, especially a frozen lake in the heart of winter.
Jackie, God, you look so great.
Yeah, thanks.
Because it's not just the ice.
She's your sister. Try to connect with her.
I don't know what the is going on with her up here.
It's what's under the ice.
Sometimes distraction is surprisingly valuable.
So, Julie, I know that you produce and direct Out Cold along with Sophie Nikitas, and I know that you also have support from the Minnesota State Arts Board. Congratulations on getting that. Are there other key collaborators that we should know about besides myself?
Yes, you might have noticed one of the voices in that trailer we just heard was CityCast Twin Cities executive producer Anna Weigel is one of the leads in season 3. We have a lot of other amazing actors. We did get support from the Minnesota State Arts Board for this season, which was really exciting. We got to pay artists. It's so fun to pay artists. But we also got to work with Soft Cult Studio, which is a newer recording studio in Northeast. And the whole season takes place in northern Minnesota. So there's a lot of like northern Minnesota spooky vibes.
We heard the trailer, and episode 1 comes out tomorrow. You're also celebrating at the Hook and Ladder tomorrow. What's coming up in the rest of season 3?
So it's a 3-part season that all follows this one couple as they head up to northern Minnesota after kind of a traumatic event has rocked their marriage. So it's a season about mental health and grief. It's also kind of a horror story about cold plunges. So I think there's a lot of serious topics and also a lot of kind of fun Minnesota bits in Out Cold season 3.
And this is not all you're bringing to the table in the world of podcasts. You just put out a very personal project called Choosing. What is Choosing all about?
Yeah, so Choosing is completely different than Out Cold. Choosing is a narrative series about the choices we make and the paths we take to become parents. I am not a parent, notably, so this is definitely not a podcast about parenthood, but I am in my mid-30s. I'm self-employed. I'm single. None of those things are prohibitive to having a child, but they're just things that I'm weighing as I think about what parenthood might look like for me. I started talking with people and hearing their stories, hearing stories about all of the angst we have around fertility, around planning for children in a world that's impacted by climate change or that feels really unstable right now. And I also heard stories about people who have become parents outside of like the traditional heterosexual marriage framework. And so I made Choosing to showcase these stories of parenthood and the different paths that can take.
Julie, as someone who's also in their 30s and have had many questions about like what it means to be a parent in 2025, this all sounds super exciting. By any chance, could we hear a sample from Choosing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a quick clip that I'm going to play. It's from the first episode where I kind of set up my story, and this scene kind of takes place when I've gone to a doctor to talk a little bit about fertility.
But my doctor also said something that sent me into a full panic. You could consider freezing your eggs.
She glanced at my chart on her computer screen.
You'll be 34 in September?
I nodded. She took a deep breath, like she was thinking carefully about what she was going to say next. And then she looked back at me. She made fierce and direct eye contact and said,
If you were my daughter, I'd tell you to freeze your eggs.
If I was her daughter, if she was my mother. She framed her advice about my future fertility in terms of parenthood.
Do you think it's harder to navigate what you're navigating in your mid-30s, self-employed, in Minnesota, even compared to where you grew up in Seattle? I feel like we stigmatize folks uniquely in Minnesota. It's like, you don't have a family yet? Like, what's going on? Are you getting married? In a way that I don't see when I go to Seattle to some extent, LA and New York, maybe to a bigger extent. What's unique about navigating the stuff you're talking about and choosing in Minnesota?
Yeah, I do think this is a culture where there is a big expectation that you find a partner, especially a partner when you're young, you get married young, you buy a house, and like all of these steps kind of fall in line. And that's great. So happy for everyone for whom that has worked out. But I think when that doesn't work out for you or you have other priorities, it does feel really hard to navigate like what is the next step, especially when you don't have a lot of models for what that's supposed to look like. So that is something that I really want to do with choosing, is just showcase other ways of becoming a parent, because I actually don't think it's that uncommon to be a single parent by choice, to do IVF, to adopt, to maybe have a child with someone who is a co-parent who is not a romantic partner. I don't think that's that unusual, but it does feel like we kind of whisper about that, like, oh, did you hear? She had a child and there's no father. And I don't know what parenthood is going to look like for me, but I'm kind of using this show to explore the different ways that it could look.
It helps just by not being silent about it, in my opinion. Most people navigating that stuff choose for very good reason to be very private about it, and you're choosing a different path, and it's one that I hope is helpful for you, and I imagine is quite helpful for other people. So I tip my hat to you for making that part of your offerings, because I imagine it's a very intimate thing to share. And that podcast is called Choosing. And is that just a one and done, like one season, here we go?
No, it's kind of going to go as long as I continue to make it. I have my first consult with a doctor to freeze my eggs in a few weeks. So my plan is to just keep making episodes as long as people keep reaching out to me to talk about parenthood, because I'm still thinking about it a lot. I'm going to document the experience of freezing my eggs. I think it is just going to be an ongoing project. So if you are interested in parenthood or have had a child in a non-traditional way, check out Choosing wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find my email in the show notes of Choosing. Get in touch. I'm happy to talk.
And now it's time for a little mailbag. On yesterday's podcast, we landed on CityCast Twin Cities' top 5 movie theaters, and they were, drumroll please, Number 5, Grandview for the urinals, AMC Eden Prairie 18 for the fireplace, Riverview for the popcorn, The Main for the programming, and Trilon for its individuality. We also got to give some honorable mentions. Rosedale AMC is a very bus-arrivable movie theater, but it is in the burbs, and The Heights in Columbia Heights is an absolute gem in the Twin Cities. And let the roasting begin. We did not mention the Parkway at 48th in Chicago, and Jason and Keith both unhappy about it, and I appreciate, because I love that people care, and I don't think of the Parkway as a movie theater, because I think of it as an awesome venue, but I just want to give a shout out to Jason. He said that the Parkway is a longtime theater in South Minneapolis, which has recently been renovated to embrace its historic character with comfy seats and nice wide rows, so you can remain seated when someone walks by you to their seat, or even just to stretch your legs out. It often has thematic boozy drinks available to pair with the films, and like the number one, Trilon, has monthly themes for its showings. And And Keith had a really nice comment about seeing Meet Me in the Bathroom, that film all about the New York scene of the early 2000s. And when he went to the event at the Parkway, he got to meet the author and got the book signed. And a bunch of friends also saw Kill Bill there. The Parkway really does a lot of incredible programming, and I will admit it was an oversight for us not to mention them. So shout out to Jason and Keith for noticing that oversight. I imagine that's the only oversight possible because we're damn close to perfect at CityCast Twin Cities. Julie, would you like to just compliment our list and say it was perfect at all, or perhaps raise an issue?
No, I love the Parkway too, so I'm happy to give them their due. I actually went to the Heights for the very first time last night, and I thought the vibe was incredible. They had a really excellent pre-show. There was an organ player, great vibes. Really want to shout out the Heights.
Denzel?
If we're going to have the Burbs make an honorable mention sneak, the fact that Alamo Drafthouse is not on here feels like a slight to me because I'm a huge Alamo Drafthouse fan. I like how seriously they take the movie viewing experience, and especially if there's that movie that you've been so excited to see, it is the perfect venue for it, even though it is definitely not as accessible as a lot of these places. And I'm a big fan of the Main. It would probably be my number one because I do find it accessible by bus. I also think it is a gorgeous sort of like date night venue. You have all that gorgeous water. You have some really nice restaurants around the area. It feels really chic because the street is made of stone that's uneven in a cute, like almost Parisian way.
Well, thank you for that information. And have you ever taken the bus all the way out to the Alamo Drafthouse? Because if you have, I'm willing to make it a top 6 list. But I don't think you have. Whenever there's a 3-digit bus, like, oh, you got to take the 274, I'm like, it is not having it. I'm not. I need double-digit buses at the maximum. You admit you've never taken the bus all the way to Woodbury?
No. I've been a lovely passenger princess getting to Woodbury.
That is all for today here on CityCast Twin Cities. I'm your host, Sean McPherson. Denzel Belin, Julie Censullo, thank you so much for being here today.
It's been great. Thanks for having us.
It's always a delight.
You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast Twin Cities newsletter. If you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who deeply loves the Parkway Theater? We'll see you back here tomorrow for more news from around the city.